This is Rick Brandenburg for Turf Bugs and Rock and Roll, and it's the end of the summer, early October, and as you can see behind me, the Bermuda is starting to lose its vim and vigor as the day length gets shorter. And it's a good time really to reflect when it comes to pest issues at the end of the summer when things are somewhat still fresh in your mind. And one of the items that I've gotten a lot of questions about this year, well, actually two. One is, it seems like some of the products I've used for 20 years don't seem to work as well as they used to. And number two, it seems like some pests that used to be relatively sporadic are much more common. And the answer to both of those is you're probably right. One of the things that I think we see a little bit of when we've used the same products at the same time of year, exactly the same, for say 20 years, we kind of select for insects either that lay their eggs a little earlier or a little later or whatever, and they find a way to kind of circumnavigate the application window that we've been using for a long, long time. And as a result, you perhaps get a small percentage of the population that actually survives. And as a result, it doesn't look like you're getting quite as good a control. So, you may find out you want to adjust your timing a little bit, rotate products or whatever, but that is a real thing over time that sometimes we see products not work quite as well, and it's not resistance, it's not microbial degradation, it's just a little adjustment in the insect pest. And in my decades of experience, the two insect pests where I have observed this most commonly are mole crickets and white grubs, as far as seeing some slight shifts in when egg laying and egg hatch occurs, and sometimes that reduces the effectiveness of the product. So if you've been doing the same time, you may want to look at some adjustments. The second issue is some people say it seems like certain pests are much, much more common. And the one I've gotten calls on this year has been the fall armyworm, that people said, I used to get this once every 3-5 years, and now it seems like year after year after year I'm seeing fall armyworms. What gives? Well, for much of many areas where fall armyworms do cause problems, they don't overwinter. They're a very tropical insect. They only overwinter if it stays relatively warm during the wintertime. But they are problematic. It seems that there are a number of different biotypes, and that there's some that prefer Bermuda grass, for example, much more than others. And it just seems in certain areas we're seeing more of those biotypes. We're seeing them more commonly, and we are seeing these problems more consistently. And obviously, fall armyworms, you give them a chance. They do love various turf types. And we have a lot of turf that in July, August, September looks really, really good and is really attractive. And I think perhaps that's correct in saying that some of these pests, such as fall armyworms, are getting to be more common. And that shouldn't surprise anyone, because as we've changed management practices, pesticide use patterns, mowing heights, fertility, irrigation, everything about it, we can expect shifts in pest populations, just like we do with weeds and diseases. So that's not to be unexpected. The other thing the third thing that I'll mention is just pests are usually a reflection of the program that we're on. And we see this in field crops a lot. And if we rely upon specific products applied at specific times, sometimes when we do that, while we may be controlling the main pest that we've gone after very, very well, sometimes we crack the door open a little bit for another pest, because it can make it in the window of when our application is. So sometimes we see pests that have never been a problem before start to creep in and cause us a few problems. But that's not that common. But just be aware that when you stick with the same program year after year after year, you do and sometimes open things up for some other issues to evolve. We'll talk about this more later. Hope that helps. Look forward to seeing you again soon.